Motherfucker. We're gonna go right into it. They try to fuck up the numerology in this motherfucker because they damn want me to break that shit down. They're gonna give me a goddamn flag. You know what I'm saying? Take my shit down real quick in this motherfucker. Now look, check this out. Now, like I said, we getting ready to go into the motherfucker moon and motherfucker Leo. So that's gonna be at motherfucker 12 o'clock or somewhere around 12 motherfucker o'clock a.m. in the motherfucking morning, which is a motherfucker half an hour from now when this motherfucker shit. Let me turn this off. You know what I'm saying? So, for the motherfucking most part, yay. Let me say, let me get all this motherfucker shit out my goddamn eyes. I'm saying real shit. I ain't trying to catch no shit in my eyes. Alright, now look, check this out, right? Now, like I said, now, you know, with the moon going into Leo and shit like that, that's when things hit the fan. And for the most part, they know how to drink these energies up also. So it put us in an energy where we're within a magic square, and they can treat us as a source of energy, right? So they can utilize our individual souls as a collection, and then make it spiritual. That's what turns it spiritual, because all of our individualities is smeared in together as a space, working for their esoteric buildings and things of that nature. And based upon the things that they make us pay attention to, we're going to derive our own individual thoughts and feelings, which is the fourth and fifth dimensional energies. And the thoughts and feelings that you create be a masculine and feminine that comes together as one creature, a mentality or a world. Technically, your energy, your group of awareness, your mind. And when that is, wherever your attention go, that's where your energy go. When that energy ball go into the source of their fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional allegories and things of that nature, they use that energy to build their mental constructs. And this becomes the streets. This becomes the buildings. These become the things that your spirit is trapped in every day when you imagine and when you wake up, because we bring these things down here to be in this type of cycle. When it comes into the hieroglyphics and it comes into us understanding the correspondence of the calendar, the moon phases, and the minutes and the seconds, and the moon houses, and the moon mansions. See what I'm saying? So it's energy harnessing, where they can take your energy, and if they can focus your energy in a certain area that they can create speculative-wise in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, then therefore all of you guys' mentalities will go to that area in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. And whatever that intellectual property is, whatever that worldview is, whatever that narrative is, now they now have enough juice. They now have enough energy to transmute. Thank you so much for the donation. 6. Now they have enough juice. Now they have enough energy to be able to transmute that and utilize that for what the fuck they want to utilize it for. Whether it's pushing a certain agenda within the world, a certain bias within the world, and having many different fashions and subsidiaries on how to force you guys to do it, even when you think you're not doing it. And you think you're being rebellious or you're being a martyr for your quote-unquote people. Quote-unquote wild individuals are even calling themselves, which we ain't gonna get into on this live stream, which is one of the reasons why they just flagged that one live stream. So if you want to know what I got into and why I got flagged, you could go watch the few minutes that was up, the little 12 minutes that was up. But I guess I got into a whole bunch of shit that I shouldn't even brought into this. But at the same time, we're gonna make sure this one don't do the same thing. But I'm not good. But it ain't like I'm scared or anything of that nature. I'm just still, you know, I'm just breaking down some shit. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for the donation, Mark Line. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Real shit. So when it comes to before we get deep into this, like I said, I want to get your mind right so you can know what they're actually doing. So you don't be thinking like this is pseudo. It's very simple shit. All you got to do is understand psychology. And once you understand psychology, you can make a math curriculum out of a psychology because you can put pieces together. And this is what takes us to understanding calculus and other type of mental forms where you know how to categorize a large group of people. You know how to goat herd. You know how to cow herd. You know what I'm saying? You know how to group things in a collection and see it from a perspective of correlating the whole thing to go in one perspective that you needed to go in. So for the most part, these are what they're actually doing to humans and shit like that. When you see things in the Bible like, you know what I'm saying, making new men or making, being a herdsman or something like that, or a sheep herder in some way. Any theologian who utilizes apologetics, they get confused a lot. In the context in the Bible, we're talking about allegories, virtues, and principles. See, so these are thoughts and feelings. So anytime you read it within context, the right starting point is to know when it's talking about sheep. It's not talking about the actual sheep that we see, that we're naming sheep as animals today. It's talking about anytime you have a group herd mentality, or a group type of mentality where you're a follower or you're like a trend in some way, shape, or form up under some type of government that promise you things. And then for the most part, when you have sheep herders, which was one of the two that came together and gave birth to that individual. I forgot the individual's name in the Bible, but I just be reading the Bible all over the place. But one of these individuals became a sheep herder or whatever like that. Was it Adam or something? It was one of these motherfuckers, but they became a sheep herder and shit. And this is an individual who can control humans. You know what I'm saying? Or the thought of individuals to make them direct or go towards a certain government. So this is them practicing how to harness energy, right? Because your energy, the first form of it is your thoughts and feelings. And if they could direct where you direct those thoughts and feelings, which is your attention, they can control energy in some way, shape, or form. So you don't want to be having your energy be used nearly for the sake of their control, especially if you don't even know that's what's going on. And this is what a lot of us get flunked out in a lot of times, because this is why we get into those liberation stories or respiration stories and shit like that, because we don't know where the actual real gold at. We don't know where the Tower of Babylon actually at. We don't know where Solomon Temple's actually at. Because these are not things you can actually find out there in history or in the actual world as far as artifacts, especially when it comes to the Norse art. These are, conceptualized concepts that we have to utilize to understand the masculine and feminine and how to bring these things together. Now, if you understand what actual external as above, so without transit and exoteric weak, or the transit that was, or the influence that they're pinpointing to, then you'll know specifically what they was corresponding to when it comes to the nature down here and what area of the body or which specific chakra or virtue and principle that they're talking about. So that's how you would get into within the detail of understanding the hieroglyphics, beyond trying to say, oh, this is a language and this is what our people spoke. Bitch, you retarded. You know what I'm saying? You got the whole wrong aspect, and every language that was made off the hieroglyphic ain't even talking about it like that. It's telling you what it is. This is anthropomorphized story written in a way for you to understand what's going on the hieroglyphics, bitch. So the language itself is the deciphering of the hieroglyphics, not the hieroglyphics being a language and you figuring out some language no one else ever thought about that being an argument. Some sheep made that up, the meta-netter being a goddamn undeciphered. Same way sheep made up all these new denominations and shit like that because they didn't like how the rulers was ruling them once the rulers already gave them a language. You know what I'm saying? Well, see, we getting right back into it. Let me get out of it. But it's all still a correspondence. You know what I'm saying? I still have to break a little bit of that down because these are the individuals who are utilizing this witchcraft against you while creating a whole bunch of global magic wand, aka light forms, images, movies, and stuff like that to make you not know how to see how they're doing witchcraft on you. And then they know how to do it so good with their psychology, they create limited hangout websites and give you certain words and dictionary and Google and Wikipedia etymology words that put in a certain way that they know that you a sheep and they know that you will look on these things and they know that you will utilize these things as a vessel to go against people like me in some way, shape, or form. So you'll be fighting for their war, not even knowing it and shit like that. And then when an individual like me come and chop down one of the warlords' heads, like whatever Mason or somebody created the intellectual property that the sun is a floating thing on its own, and we all know in existence, light don't have no shape, and whatever shape we see it is taking the shape of whatever object that's in the atmosphere of the light that already got emitted. And things of that nature, we automatically know that in this motherfucker shit. But anytime an angel come around and fight a real war and shit like that, I'm gonna be cast stones as a demon, because the individual gonna utilize one of these limited hangout websites and be like, this motherfucker ain't Archangel Uriel, this motherfucker ain't got no new knowledge, because ain't nothing new up under the sun. Because look, on Google right here, because Plato right here, this, that, and the third, because the sun, hydrogen, helium, and brings melanin, this, that, and then before I know it, goddamn, I'm fighting with demons for another eon. You know what I'm saying? And it's that motherfucker simple. Where back in the Plato days, they wasn't doing that back in the Plato days. Plato came up with an idea. Constantine came up with an idea. They all fought at the round table until what man or woman had the best idea. And then we all agree with it because this is what we was doing. We wasn't in no using things for the sake of a Luciferian energy at the moment. Because they came up with that concept of what motherfuckers who do that. You coming in the name of something. That's why even the Jews came up with Jesus not being a Messiah. Too many individuals keep coming in the name of a virtue and principle and anthropomorphifying it as a concept. And then for the most part, the blind leading the blind as the sheep and not understanding the natural context of what they're talking about as the allegory of Jesus. So for the most part, it's a whole bunch of these things that people are taking in today's time from old and outdated arguments of how their mind frame was in very different spaces when they came up with these arguments. And that's what I've been carrying on today's time when I've been coming up with all my ways of going about changing business, entertainment, education, religion, and politics and shouting out everybody and how to bring that together. But it just showed me amongst the years how everybody are actually demons and just utilizing things to be seen as forms of intelligence, which really that they're not. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes into the numerology and things of that nature, like I said, this is how they harness your motherfucking energy first beyond the motherfucking language. Right? Because it starts off with numerology and gematria. But that's the first thing that gets springed off as far as the hieroglyphics. So for an example, if we're making the hieroglyphics, right, we're creating a whole bunch of correspondences as above, so below to understand what's going to come tomorrow and understand why we act certain virtues in certain ways that we do, right? So we're going to draw a lot of things on the ground that correspond to a lot of things above that we think is going on. We think is going to the right, where we're really on the water going to the left, but that's another video. So once we make all these signs and symbols to help us correlate a second, a minute, an hour, a fucking week, a month, a yearly, and an Egyptian yearly, whatever perspective we create, this is how we're going to harmonize it at first. Now, the first thing that's going to be derived is mathematics from that, right? Because we're going to be keeping calculation on time periods. And each time period has a different vibration that gets manifested from it. And we act different ways. And the external environment act different ways. AKA, we got seasonal transitions and the way we react and respond to the seasonal transitions to come up with new ideas for shelter or feeding or fucking or coming up with entertainment is very different during these times. So, that becomes the first kind of concept of the esoteric spirituality and correspondence and things of that nature. Mathematics. Now, after the mathematics, that's when we're correlating to the line and the curve before we create the spells. And the line is going to correlate to masculine, and the curve is going to correlate to feminine, right? And when something has a multiple curve, that's going to be androgynous. So this is us calculating the first kind of concepts of numbers and things of that nature. This is why 1, 4, and 7 is masculine in nature, and 2, 5, 8 is feminine in nature. And just based upon the correspondence of understanding the true esoteric spiritual knowledge at the right starting point, you can just look at the numbers. 1, 4, and 7 is masculine, so it's a bunch of sticks. 2, 5, 8 is feminine, so it's a bunch of curves. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind also. Now, when we get into the context of androgynous, this is multiple loop. So this is where we're squaring out the circle. This is where we're deriving the line and the curve at in the first place. Then now we're starting to get to spelling, because spelling is derived off understanding masculine and feminine. And the line and the curve is us understanding the externalizing and the feminine internalizing. So internalizing feminine is another word for receiving. Externalizing or masculine is another term for pushing out. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, this is how we start to break down consonants and vowels. Externalism, internalism. Receiving and pushing out as charges, right? Now, for the most part, once we start to correlate that, our vowels, before we started to put these letters together, help us understand directions from inside. That's why I always tell you, left internally is taking something, going left field. Forward internally is feeling like you're accomplished. I'm just using these terms, but it's just a spirit. When you're moving in that direction, you develop the awareness, the thoughts and feelings that make you think and feel what that is. Which is the space, which you develop the spaceship that you're inside of as a spirit for it to go in that direction. Back, regret or resentment. Down, depression or doubt. Right, righteous or sacrificing yourself. You know what I'm saying? Up, uplifting or optimism. You see what I'm saying? And then you could catacorner these things, which would be the archangles, the angles. You know what I'm saying? Where you're blending up and left, or you know what I'm saying, or forward and back and things of that nature, or opposites and shit. Now that we have that correspondence, now we're gonna have hey, ha, ho, hu, he, because we're gonna come with the Moses, the ocean, tracking our whole body of water, rotating from the eastern continents to the Antarctica. Right now, once we get into the first vowels, hey, ha, ho, hu, he, We're going to start to build the structures off the masculine and feminine. The masculine going to be more correlated to the continent, the line, and the consonants, how we built the actual sand and the land structure physically as the continents, but first it's going to be consonants. Then it's going to be derived, and what give us the power is the vibration behind it, the chakra behind it, the space we was in as a spirit when we developed that chakra to make it have that that emphasis, that charge. You know, the emotion is the gas, the frequency is the fire, the image, the seed, the masculine. So when we give it the gas, the emotion, the power for it to go, right? That's when we give it a vow. So this is why we can say things like bitch, and it ain't what we say, it's how we say it, and it give it a different energy when you receive it, when you get impacted, when you get influenced.